Welcome to the Racket House podcast, episode 18, where we discuss all things music and success in our fun corner of the world, helping to inspire, inform, educate, motivate, and keep hope alive for musicians, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone else who wants to grow their brand in the music or creative spaces. Today, we welcome Helen Gutierrez, who's the co-founder of Straight Edge Entertainment Group, built on years of hands-on artist development. She started independently, guiding emerging talent, then honed her skills at a boutique management agency. She's taken artists from their bedrooms to nationwide tours. Now she's creating a home for artists rooted in authenticity, transparency, and intentional growth. Some up-and-coming artists Helen is working with and excited about right now include Kieran the Nomad, Billy the Kid, and Frankie Sims. She's focused on building careers with purpose, straight up. I'm excited to get into it and talk about what Helen's doing and seeing in her world, how it compares with my world, and of course, get some nuggets, wisdom, tips, and tricks for all you artists out there. Please welcome Helen Gutierrez to the podcast.
Yay.
Did I butcher any names in there? I hope I got everyone's name right.
Kieran the Nomad? Other
Kieran.
than that, you did great.
Kieran. What did I say?
Kieran.
I apologize, Kieran, if you're listening. Hopefully you do. I apologize. You're awesome. Well, thanks for being here. We're on kind of not opposite sides of the country, but definitely not anywhere near each other, thousands of miles away. You're in Florida. I'm in Denver. But I think it's really interesting to note kind of how we got in touch in the beginning, because I think a lot of the people I've had on and a lot of people in my network these days are through the power of the internet and social media and things like that. And I think I had posted something on my Racket House Instagram. And what's cool, what I like actually seeing is that you can see who's sharing your posts. And as we know, the algorithm really likes when people share your posts. So I've actually gotten into a habit of thanking people for sharing posts when they do. I just feel like it's a little bit of a added personal touch. And so I was going through the list of, I've been doing these, I like to post these like sort of inspirational, motivational posts that just give people good feelings. And, there's so much negativity out there these days. And I think I said, thanks for sharing. And I don't know if you responded. And then I was like, by the way, if you need any help, let me know. And you're like, well, I manage artists, I manage talent. So I was like, oh, cool. And then I checked you out and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. And I really liked the stuff you were putting out, the content you were putting out. I think you have some really good advice and tips. And I think you have a unique way of doing your content. And I think there was a post recently how you just said straight up, and I'm a very straight up kind of guy, like your brand, of course, but you were like, I got 10,000 followers in 5 months. Social media isn't hard, guys. Like, just do it. It's something along those lines, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I love, like you said, how we got to sort of meet each other. And also thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm super happy we were able to connect. That practice of just like reaching out to people when they share your posts is really, really impactful because it can start a conversation, and we would not have like met each other otherwise. I really just came across your post on social media and I was like, that's really awesome. I'm going to share this so that artists who follow me can see it. And yeah, so it's really cool. And I mean, yeah, as far as making it 10K followers so quickly, it was actually like 2.5 months, which is crazy.
And you're at like 13 now, and
yeah.
And that's just all organic growth, just like people seeing your content and following you.
Yeah, I don't like run any ads or anything on my own stuff. I do for my artists, but not for me. When I started out, I already had, a couple, like maybe like 3,000 just from, people I've met and things like that, but I hadn't really posted yet. I had no posts. And then, yeah, I just started posting consistently and kind of just doing the thing, and people seem to really resonate with it. And my point in actually making that video was to show people that, like, obviously I had like helped artists, decide what to post on their accounts, and like connected them with, marketers and media and stuff like that to get, good posts out there. But, I had not really done it myself. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, let me just try it out. I might as well, share some information, and also just kind of get some practice, learn a little bit more about the algorithm, and be able to
Yeah.
like help artists that way. And like the first post that I did got like 20 something thousand views. It was like the
Wow.
only reel on my account. I was like,
Hmm.
oh wow, okay, I'm gonna
That's
keep doing
great.
this. And
Yeah.
like,
That that's
yeah,
that's actually one of the questions I kind of had around like your kind of like goals around social media, because like, you have been sharing a lot of great wisdom and nuggets, but it sounds like you started doing that almost as a testing ground to like walk the walk with your artists. If you're going to be encouraging them, and I'm putting words out, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're going to be working with artists and being like, you need a post, and here's the kind of content you should post, like, okay, well, are you doing it yourself? Are you getting the results? Are you growing as a result of what you're putting out there? Yes. Well, okay, then that builds trust, authority. People want to take your advice more. Is that fair to say?
yeah, totally. And that's really the reason why I started, because it's like I in a way, like I was able to like test things through like the artist accounts, um, but kind of having the freedom to just try different formats out on my own and kind of see how they perform, and then be able to go back to the artist and be like, hey, I did this and it really worked, you should try it out, and have it work for them too. I think is really beneficial. And I've also just found it really rewarding to just kind of like share information out there. Not only because of the fact that like I've been able to get word out about the company and the
Yeah.
artists that we represent and sort of
Hmm.
promote them that way, but also just because of the fact that like I've had a lot of artists reach out to me and be like, hey, I took your advice and like it worked out great. And like I love these posts. Like, thank you so much for doing this. Um and like really that's the main reason why I'm like still doing it. Just because it's just been fulfilling in a lot more ways than I thought. And I had never really posted before because I feel like managers usually don't. Like I feel like managers usually just focus on their artist accounts, and then they don't really have like their own online persona. But I was like, I mean, why not? I tried it
Yeah.
out, and I mean, it's working so far.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Shout out Parker Cohen, if you know who that is. I mean,
Yeah.
he's I follow him on social media, and for those who don't know, manages possibly one of the biggest artists in dance music, John Summit, and a roster of other rising stars. And Parker's just really fun to watch because he's just he's himself, and he's whatever it is. He's playing tennis with the owner of Fountain Blue and Live nightclub, and or he's touring the world with on biggest stages and stuff. I think and he's like, I've watched his accounts grow too. He's got tens of thousands of followers now. So I think that stuff is really interesting, and I think there's like really something to be said around personal brand. Even when I worked corporate, right? I worked at some large large tech companies, global companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, where we were kind of cogs in a wheel. Excuse me. But they still, and I say they, I meant like management and leadership, really encouraged employees to have a personal brand, to have a brand, because the whole idea is people buy from, like, and this is an old mentor of mine used to say this, but people buy from people they like, right? And if you can get to know people on more of a personal level, I think it really helps give comfort and trust and all that stuff. And that's what we look for as humans, right? And then, of course, as we're building brands, our own brands, as well as the artists that we represent, is really important. A good friend of mine, just as a side note to that, like a good friend of mine recently left his job, and his manager, he said, was like a robot. He was like, I feel like I've worked with this guy for like 2 years. I don't know anything about him. I just learned on my last day that he like likes to travel, or he's been X amount of countries or something like that, but he never like took the time to get to know me or share stories about himself. And like, that's just, we want more. So I commend you on letting people in. And we want those like serotonin hits of reward, right? Like the thank yous and the, oh, you helped me. And I feel like in the role that we're in, you as a talent manager, me as a former talent manager, and then me as somebody who's just building a business, helping others. We want to help people. Like that's my mission statement. That's my vision for myself, is to work in music, to help artists, to do it from anywhere in the world, and to really, try to make a difference. So I think we have a lot in common there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we want to go back in the way back time machine? Like, not too far back, but like, where it all started for you, where you kind of cut your teeth, any like kind of lessons you learned along the way, where you maybe fell, got back up, and then, because we all want to grow through lessons learned, and we're not all gonna, fly before we fall. We got to fall before we can fly. So tell us about, the earlier days for Helen, what that looked like, and how you ended up starting your own agency.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, there's definitely a lot of different things that happen. Definitely have fallen down before. You have to. Um, but yeah, honestly, my kind of journey into like the music industry and management was just really born from just like a genuine, love for music. Um, I was a fan, really. I loved electronic music, like, ever since I was like younger in school. Like, I heard Skrillex for the first time and I was like, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
I was
I
really
think a
into
lot of
kind of,
us went through that when he first came out. That's why he's such a superstar.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then there's like, kind of like the more like pop influence stuff, like the chain smokers and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like that was always on repeat. Um, and I went to my first music festival in 2019.
Mhm.
And it was Life in Color
Oh,
in
yes.
Miami, which no longer exists. But
R.I.P. Pour a little out for Life in Color, everyone.
yeah, that was a fun one. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. After that, I started going to festivals regularly. I went to EDC Orlando. As you can tell, I grew up in Florida. And
Florida girl.
yeah, I really just was taken aback by just like a DJ's ability to just like command an audience and really kind of like evoke that sort of like emotional, response. And I was just kind of like hooked on that. And at the time, I was in college and I was pre-med. So, my whole life plan was to become a doctor. And then my friends were all taking the MCAT, and I was like really hit with the reality of like, do I really want to be in school for the next however many years and then work in a hospital 80 hours a week? And I was
Yeah.
like, not really. Like,
And
I,
not go to
I, I
music festivals as often, maybe.
yeah, like I was like, not really. Like, it was like, I love helping people, which is like the main reason why I wanted to do that. But I kind of came to the realization that like, that's not the only way to help people and there's like other ways to help people. And so I was kind of torn between kind of those two paths. At the same time, I was becoming very involved in my local scene.
Mm.
I was having artists reach out to me and ask me to manage them because I had come up with like a lot of artist friends that were like up and comers and kind of decided to start doing it.
And we
I
call
got
that,
really,
yeah, we call that the
yeah,
friendager, right? I was there.
friendager.
That was me too. The friendager.
Yes.
Yep. So artists started hitting you up. Was there any particular reason they came to you? Like, were you starting to, I guess, develop sort of a knack, or were you giving advice, or like why did they come to you?
I think it was a combination of I was unknowingly starting to build a network within the industry just by going to shows and making friends.
Hmm.
And also just a combination of, I am typically that friend that gives a lot of advice and then, talks about like, mindset and things like that. And I've always been like deemed like the smart friend, quote unquote. So like I don't know, I just kind of happened. Um, And so actually my same co-founder from this company, we started our own like management firm like back then to
Mm.
manage our friends, and we had no idea what we were doing, but we just kind of learned like along the way, and
Sure.
like somehow ended up getting absorbed by a larger company. And then we were there for, until we started doing this. So it really kind of just like fell in our laps basically. But it was just
That's
because
incredible.
of the fact that we were present and we were just doing the thing. That's why I like always tell artists, like, if you want to do something, just do it,
Just do
even if
it.
you have no idea what you're doing.
Just do it. Yeah. That's that's great advice. I mean, I think sometimes, was there ever any like imposter syndrome or anything like where you're like, what am I doing? Like, am I qualified to be doing this? But then you get acquired by another company. I mean, like, any feelings around that stuff?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is a really big thing. Honestly, I still feel it. And I have to like
Hmm.
kind of like talk myself out of it, because
Sure.
like I know that I know what I'm doing at this point. Obviously, there's still a lot to learn,
Yeah.
but like, I do sometimes get the feeling, when someone, asks me for advice or I get certain opportunities or whatever, that I'm like, wait, they're asking me?
Yeah.
Like what? Like I actually had a call recently with a another artist manager. His name is Dave Rose. He also makes videos online. His
Hmm.
are really, really good. If you don't follow him, you totally should.
Okay.
He's had artists go, like multi-platinum, and we got on a call, and he was like, I really like the stuff that you're posting, and was just kind of like picking my brain about my thoughts on some things, and strategies for artists and things like that. And I was like, wow, like this guy's like asking me, because he's
Yeah.
obviously. Oh, there's the dogs.
Mailman. Mail's here.
Yeah. So I mean, he's obviously been doing this way longer than me, has a lot more experience than me, but is kind of asking me for like what I think about these things, and I kind of had imposter syndrome, in that moment. But I think it's
Mm,
just a matter of like realizing that like we all kind of have something to give that's valuable. And I
yeah.
think thinking that, oh, because I'm not this other person, or I haven't been doing this for a certain amount of time, or I haven't hit a specific threshold, that I'm going to feel legit. Like, the truth is, the threshold is always going to move, and so if you feel that way now, you're always going to feel that way. So that's kind of what I remind myself.
Yeah, it's great advice, and I think it's really awesome when people can come together like that. Almost like you and me. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that like we're competitors, but there's definitely a lot in even the year and a half I've been doing this specific project, running the Racket House. I've noticed, I don't know if it's because my algorithms have changed, but I've just noticed a lot more people doing what we're doing. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's always been that way, or if it's just kind of like we're connected in so many different ways and our algorithms and all that. But I think it's best when people who have a certain skill set or knowledge within a certain topic can come together and kind of share ideas. And because I believe personally that it's for the greater good, right? If two people who help artists come together to figure out ways or pick brains to help artists even more, then that's great, right? Um, so that's a testament to what you're doing. And I feel like, yeah, the imposter syndrome might appear in a situation like that, but then maybe it goes away because you're like, oh, these people are hitting me up, right? Like I definitely had some moments like that when, like I had Jesse Cannon on my podcast, who's one of the biggest names in music marketing, and some other people who I've like been able to build relationships with. But there are times too, I'll be vulnerable right now in this moment, where I'm like, making videos and posting content, and I'm trying to give away tips or advice, and I'm just kind of like, are people going to listen to me about this stuff? Like, am I giving out the right advice, or am I saying stuff that people want to hear? Um, but I'm grateful to have a really good network around me, where I've had some really tough days, and people close to me are just like, just keep going, just keep pushing, like one of my best months followed by one of my worst months, and then it's just kind of like this ebb and flow of just keep doing the damn thing, like you said. So that's the subject of today's call, is just do the damn thing. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. So yeah, just kind of, yeah, you went from almost being a doctor to now working with artists, and there's probably not a lot of ways that those things are connected. But yeah, I mean, tell me about like kind of how you think of things, like what, like, I'd love to get inside your head too. And obviously this will be used to help other artists who hear this conversation. But when you work with your colleagues, how many people are on the team, by the way?
Well, we actually just started this company this year, so
Hmm.
we actually just have me and my co-founder, and then we also have some media, visual artists, and you know, intern capacity
Hmm.
sort of people. But as far as like full-time employees, it's really just us. We're
That's great.
still very small.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're full time with your artists. Are they also full time, or kind of like what does that look like?
It depends on the artist. They're all kind of at like different points in their career. I
Hmm.
have, some artists that are able to, sustain themselves through music. I have others that wake up at 4 in the morning to go DoorDash to be able to work on music the rest of the day and pay their bills. Shout
Mm.
out Billy the Kid. That man is a beast. Um,
It's impressive.
and yeah, I have artists who work full-time corporate jobs and then stay up all night and work
Sure.
on their music. So, I mean, it really depends. I have one that is in the process of moving towards doing music full time, and that's always really exciting when an artist can do that. But um, yeah, I mean, it kind of looks different for everyone, but
Hmm.
the common denominator is that they are all working as hard as they possibly can.
And so I mean, this is something that it's been a very common topic of conversation. The last guest I had on, shout out Tom Astley Williams, who runs La Faire Musicale, picking his brain around the role of an artist manager, right? In 2025, I think there are still a lot of misconceptions around what a manager does. When is an artist, when's the right time for an artist to have a manager? Do artists need managers at all these days? I think like even still very often I see artists being like, I need a manager. And then it's like, why do you think you need a manager? So how do you define your role within your day to day, how you work with artists, what you're doing, what you're not doing? What does that look like for you?
Right. Yeah. And the whole, do I need a manager when do I need a manager sort of thing is something that comes up a lot. I see a combination of, artists who are at the point where they really should have someone helping them manage their career and it's becoming way too much that don't want a manager. And then I've also had artists that are just starting off and really have nothing to manage yet. The answer
Hmm.
to when you need a manager is when there is something to manage. When it's at the point where there's, stuff that, you just don't have enough hours in the day to do music, to do content, marketing, strategy, answer emails, all this other stuff. That's when you need a manager. Um, but, when it comes to the role of an artist manager, I think it's kind of evolved a lot. I feel like artist managers now do a lot more than they used to. Like I feel like now we do a lot of things that like historically like labels used to do.
Hmm.
But the way that I like to describe it is like if your artist project is like a company and you're the owner of that company as the artist, the manager is like the CEO. It's the person that you hire to essentially be the central hub and the like strategic partner that's going to run the business side of your career. Everything from helping you define your vision to your brand, building the team, connecting you with the right people, helping you out with marketing, releasing music, career roadmaps, strategy, overall business planning, and really kind of everything that that an artist project really needs.
Hmm.
And so when it comes to like other roles, like for example, like a booking agent, like that's its own role. And that's someone that we would add to the artist team and work directly with them to make sure that the artist's best interests are being accounted for and that they're getting the opportunities they need to get. And that's the same thing with anyone else that we'd add to an artist team. And so I would say an artist manager is essentially your business partner that is helping you develop kind of like the whole like overarching career. It's not necessarily like one particular component of it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think, like, in my opinion, there's, unless you're defining roles and responsibilities with the artist, it can be a little gray. Like, what happens? I mean, you mentioned the talent buyer, or the the booking agent, for example, right? Like, what happens when one of your artists comes to you and says, "Hey, can you help me get more bookings?" Like, how do you respond with that? Are you actually working on ways to get them more bookings? You are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it depends on the artist. Because, if an artist is at the point where they have an agent, that's where, we would make contact with the agent, and we would have weekly meetings, constantly talk to them about what the artist has going on, kind of what they're doing in particular markets,
Hmm.
any collabs that they have coming up, anything like that, and kind of target. Typically when we're working with a booking agent, we have usually like a shared sheet or something, and we talk strategy,
Hmm.
and we talk about the different sort of markets we want to target, festivals we want to target, kind of like what's, like the kind of fee that we're looking for,
Hmm.
really be like a big partner in those negotiations. If an artist does not have a booking agent yet, like they're not really at that point, then essentially we act as their booking agent
Sure.
and reach out to get them those opportunities. Because typically, unless it's like someone that like has like just like an insane amount of potential to where it's like a like specific situation, like they want to see some sort of success because they want to see that they'll be able to make money if they're like pitching you out for shows and stuff like that, especially the
Right.
larger agencies. And so yeah, that's something that we focus on, until we're able to kind of pass that role on to the booking agent.
What don't you do as an artist manager?
Well, we're not. I mean, it depends on kind of like what the artist needs. Because I would say like we're not media, obviously, but
Hmm.
if they don't have the budget to hire media, I'll go do it. Like
Sure.
but
Yeah.
like but we're not a booking agent. We're not marketers, although we do help with marketing if they don't have the budget um to hire someone to help with that. We're not a record label. So our goal is primarily to help the artist with
Hmm.
whatever they need, not necessarily like a particular piece. And I think like that's sort of like the difference. Like if you're
Hmm.
someone who does like, say if you're a booking agent, your particular goal is how can I get this artist to play as many shows as possible so that my company can make the most money. Same thing with like record labels and streaming,
Yep.
and things like that. So our goal, it really is just for the artist's overall career to be successful. And so I think it's just a matter of like managing those teams. And I think a great manager will step in and do the things that need to be done when the artist doesn't, maybe have the ability to have someone else do it. But ideally, with a full team, an artist manager essentially is really just helping to kind of make sure that like the machine is flowing, everything is going smoothly, coordinating, who's going to be on the team, like what are each of their goals, like what's the overall career strategy, how can we get them the opportunities they want, how can I
Hmm.
connect them to the people that they need to be connected to, um, and those sort of things. So I think it is a little fluid,
Yeah.
um, depending on what the artist's particular needs are. But ideally, it would be like the manager would manage the artist's team, depending on whoever is in that team.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. And so, like, you're kind of like creating, almost like a playbook or strategy, and then are you kind of like leaving it in the hands of the artist to go out and do those things, or are you kind of like dividing and conquering? Are there any, is there any friction around, like, you believe an artist should be doing this, but they won't do it, or maybe in some cases they don't listen to you? I mean, there's been some of that in the past, right? Like, are you pretty clear, like, in the courting process, either they come to you or you come to them, and you're very clear about like, here's setting expectations.
Right. Yeah. So I will say part of the reason why we actually decided to start Straight Edge is because something that we noticed a lot is, especially at, our previous company, managers kind of doing everything for the artist to the point where the artist doesn't know what's going on and doesn't have agency in their career.
Interesting.
And that's kind of where I feel like it's gone too far. Like I think that a big role of an artist manager is to take away a lot of kind of the other work to where the artist really only has to focus on making music and making content. But that does not necessarily mean that you need to take away their agency, and you should not. And that's why, like, Straight Edge is all about that authenticity and transparency. That's why our slogan is like straight up, because we are straight up with our artists. If we think that we should do things a certain way, we're gonna, 100% be straight up about that. But if they're like, hey, I don't agree, I don't want to do it like that, okay, we'll do it however you want to do it. We'll just make sure that we can do it the best we can, because at the end of the day, it's not my career, it's their career.
Of course.
And so, we just approach any sort of like challenges, conflicts are more growth conversations. It's more talking about, what are the artist's particular needs? What are their concerns? Why do I think that something should be done a certain way? Why do they think something should be done a certain way? And then just coming to a conclusion that is going to be the best for everyone, that everyone can feel good about. But yeah, I'm definitely not in the business of forcing artists to do things. I feel like it's really important to, teach artists to kind of hone in skills on their own so that they're not just dependent on other people. That's why I made a video about this recently. I'm big on artists, like, especially when they're starting out, really focusing on, building their skills with, social media marketing before really just like dumping a ginormous budget in ads, because then they're left without those skills that are so necessary. And so, things like that, I do think that, like, I'll tell the artist what to do, but then I'll kind of have them learn and do it on their own, as opposed to just taking their account and posting for them, because I feel like that, I mean, yeah, it might get them there faster, but I just don't feel like that's necessarily beneficial to their personal growth.
Right.
And then as far as courting artists, honestly, it's kind of both. Like, I have a lot of artists reach out. I also reach out to a lot of artists. If I have an artist reach out to me that I think has like great potential, I'll set up a call with them. But I will say the vast majority of artists that we worked with, we reached out to just because of, the fact that, if we reach out to them, obviously they have what we're looking for. So there's just a higher chance that it's going to develop into that, larger partnership.
Okay. What are you looking for? Artists, get your pens and paper ready. What are you looking for? What are like top 3 to 5 things that like make you be like, yeah, this person needs to be on our roster?
Great question. First of all, the music has got to be good. The music has got to be good, and there's got to be something there that I'm like, okay, we can like build this.
And real quick, sorry, is it your cross genre or focusing on electronic? Because
so most of my experience is in electronic. I'm primarily focused on electronic, but we are working on kind of moving into other genres. So right now our roster has one rapper and everyone else is electronic. Different genres within electronic. I am also on the hunt for a pop girly, but I'm waiting for the right one. So
wait,
yeah,
didn't you say in one of your posts, don't wait for opportunities, create them?
Yeah, by waiting I mean I'm looking.
There you go. Phrasing.
Yes, I'm coming. I'm waiting for my search to lead me to the right one.
Yes, manifest your ideal dream pop girly vision. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So sorry to interrupt. So you are music has got to be good. Got to be a banger.
Yes, it's got to be good. I've tried to work with artists that, their brand is there, their social media is there, but their music is not all there, and it's difficult because that's the part that I can't teach.
That's a tough one.
So
Yeah. And what do you do in that situation? Like, let's say they have and again, Tom liked to use this word, which is a little old school, but the it factor, right? Like they got the brand, the image, they got, good content. Like everything is there except the music. Are there ways that you can work with them, resources you can bring in to help with the music itself? Or are you just saying, look, everything's there, we're 80% there, or whatever percent you want to call it, but come back to me when you've had a chance to kind of work on your music? Like, is that a thing?
um I would say I've definitely done both. It depends on like the particular artist,
Mm-hmm.
if they're like almost there, but they could just use a little bit of help, I'll connect them with a producer that can help them out
Sure.
and, give them lessons, work on tracks with them, kind of get them to that point. That's a totally fine option. Um, if it's at the point where it's like, okay, I feel like it may take more than 6 months of lessons to get to the point where there's someone that's going to be like, oh yeah, this is a really good song, this is a banger, then I would say, work on music a little longer,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back to me, because the brand, the image, the social media presence, all of that is super super important, but the product itself has to be good in order for people to want to buy it.
What about those who say the product is the artist and the music is the marketing for that product?
I mean,
Because there are those who say it.
yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, when people are buying into, an artist, whether they're streaming their music, when they're, going to a show, buying tickets, they are buying into, the artist as a whole. Um, and I guess, yeah, in that sense, the music could be marketing. So I feel like that also is a way that you could look at it. Um, I view it more as the music is a part of the artist,
Mm-hmm.
and that, as a whole is the product, and then, everything else that you do um is more so like the marketing, like the social media, and stuff like that. But I
It,
do
it
feel like, yeah,
sorry.
I do. Sorry, go ahead.
My bad, my bad. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's an interesting way to think about things, and not traditional. But I think for those who think that way, are more maybe thinking about, like, yes, and maybe not a hard and fast rule, but maybe they're just thinking more around the lines of like, these days, the more you can let people, fans, potential fans, in to getting to know the person behind the music, that's when it kind of becomes, when that thought makes a little bit more sense. I do agree with you. I see both sides of it. I do believe that the music is an output of an artist's inputs and efforts.
Hmm.
But I think, yeah, like the more you can kind of like get on the level, and this is just my opinion, of that artist, like feel like you know them, feel like you get to know them, they're personable, they're likable, whatever it is, or they have a quirky personality trait, whatever that is, show that stuff, I think is really important. But I want to come back
Yeah.
to like, what you look for. Okay, so the music, number one. What's number
Yes.
two?
Yeah, and just to know, I totally agree with that. I think that's why I said that the product is like kind of both, because it's like
Yeah.
you can have like a really good, brand and persona, but, terrible music, and people aren't going to want to go listen to your live show. And also, vice versa. You can have great music and no brand or persona, and people are also not going to want to go to your show because they haven't bought into you as
Yeah,
a person. But
it's a tricky, it's very subjective. I always bring this up, but like, so I was once asked, like, okay, there's artist A, there's artist B. Artist A makes Grammy quality music, but doesn't do anything to promote themselves, doesn't have a brand, whatever. Artist B makes, mid whatever music, but is a presence, right? Like they put
Mhm.
themselves out there, they market them. Like, who's going to be more successful in 2025?
Yeah,
And
artist B all the way.
sadly,
Yeah.
unfortunately, artist B was my answer. There has to be a little bit of both, but I always try to give artists hope too. It's like there's 8 billion people in the world, right? There's gonna be someone out there who likes your music. That's what art is. um
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, back to your question. It's kind of the perfect segue into the next thing that I really look at is the brand. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's really, really important. But honing in on the artist brand is probably the first thing that we usually do when we sign an artist, because everything else kind of stems from that, from what you do sonically to what you do
Sure.
visually, what kind of content you're posting, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
persona you're creating, what kind of universe you're creating for your fans to exist in. And so that's really important. I found that while we can build those with artists that don't have one, um, if an artist kind of at least knows what kind of realm they want to be in, it's easier. And so for that reason, a brand that really sticks out, that like I'm like, oh, that hasn't really been done before. A lot of people will really like this. That's something that really catches my eye.
Mm.
In fact, that's what actually drew me to Billy the Kid
Okay.
specifically, because he is an EDM artist,
Mm-hmm.
and he has like Wild West branding inspired by, the story of Billy the Kid.
Sure.
He dresses up as a cowboy, all of his, content and visuals, everything is, around that brand. And like when I saw that, when I was scrolling online, I was like, this is unique. I
Yeah.
don't know why no one else has taken this angle yet in EDM, but I haven't seen it. I mean, the closest that I can think of is like Little Texas, maybe.
Or
Um,
yeah, or when Diplo plays at Stagecoach, and
yeah.
or like when Avicii put out a country song, So yeah, the whole like crossover thing,
But
is
it,
that yeah,
yeah, but it's like, yeah, there's been like elements here and
sure,
there,
but
but
no
like
one,
an artist whose
no one
full
fully owning
brand,
it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the first time I've ever seen that. So that's what kind of brought me there. So that's another thing. A third thing
Can I
is,
just quickly ask?
yeah.
Do you work on? Okay, so you're looking for music that's there. You're working for brand, but do you work on developing the brand? Like, let's say an artist has all the other boxes checked. Kind of like the same question with the music, right? Like, are you saying like, okay, let's work on this stuff? Like, how do you define your brand? Like, what are some of the visual components of your brand? Like, do you work on that stuff with them, or they already got to be locked in and you're just taking it and running with it?
We do work on that stuff. When I'm making like, a list of like things that I look for, in an artist, if an artist hits, every single one of the things that I'm looking for, great. That's
Sure.
usually not the case.
Yep.
Usually it'll be like 4 out of 5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have a really cool brand, but they need a little bit of help with social media. Or maybe their social media is really good, but there's no specific brand. Maybe everything is good, but their music is like just okay, and we could work on that. Or maybe their music is, amazing, and they have, everything else, but their brand is a little bit all over the place. Like those are things that we help them with. A big part of what we do is kind of identifying those weaknesses and helping them work on them so that they can be more like well-rounded artists.
Yep.
And so when I'm list these things, is like nothing is like an end all be all.
Sure.
It's like the more of this that you have, the better. But I honestly have yet to come across an artist that has, every single aspect of their artist career 100% down to a T perfect. First of all, because that's not possible,
Yeah.
especially because everything is always changing. And second, just because it's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
an artist can have like a cool idea for a brand, but maybe it's not fleshed out and they need help with that. So it's a spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. So many conversations I have that are like, artists want to jump ahead to like, I want more fans. I want people to listen to my music. Like, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I just want more people to hear my music. I'm like, okay, why?
Go to more people.
Well, number one, okay, then what? Okay, you
Yeah,
get more people to listen to your music. Then what are you gonna do?
exactly.
B, like, why should they? Like, why should people care? Like, why should people spend their time and potentially money and whatever else on you versus the next person? And
Uh-huh.
so I always try to reel that in and try to go back to basics with the ones who are maybe a little bit ahead of their skis in some
Mhm.
ways. But for the ones who are like kind of self-aware too, those are my favorite ones because they're just like super open-minded. They want to get to work on that stuff. Was there anything else in your evaluation process that should be called out as far as what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned sort of social media. That's a big one. Like, they don't have to be the best at it, but they have to at least be
Try.
trying,
Yep.
because it's something that if you cannot master that, you will not be successful. So
Yeah. Let's get into that topic because it's a hot one.
yeah.
Trying. So does that mean, do you look for frequency? I mean, I'm sure the answer is yes, but like in your own words, like frequency, consistency, like what kind of stuff they're putting out there. Like, talk to me about how you think about social media from the lens of an artist. I know how you think about it from yourself. You're doing an awesome job. I love your stuff. How do you think about it through the
Thank you.
lens of an artist?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of everything. The biggest thing that I look for, honestly, when it comes to like signing an artist, when it comes to social media, but also when it comes to music, when it comes to branding, when it comes to everything, is work ethic. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I go on your account and I see that you are posting on a consistent basis, you're trying out, different things, you're like taking trends and trying to like adapt it and like really just trying to share your story, even if it's not executed in the best way, as long as it's very clear that there's an effort there, that's something that I can totally work with. The issue that I run into is when artists like don't even try and they're like, well, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. You have to. Like,
Yeah. Uh, what's your definition of consistency, by the way? Do you have a certain like quality versus quantity threshold or anything like that? Consistency is,
hmm
some people can be consistently putting out one post a week or a month, but is that enough?
I would say with social media, definitely not.
Yeah.
And I think that consistency, it varies depending on what exactly your goal is and how far you are in your career. For example, for artists who are starting off, I always say post every single day.
Yeah.
Do not skip a day, does not matter what, post every single day. And the reason for that is obviously the quality is going to be lower. But the reason for that is because I need them to get into the habit of thinking about social media every single day, putting their face out there every single day, especially because when you're starting out, people don't know who you are yet.
Yep.
There's so much information out there online because you're not just competing with other artists, you're competing with everything that shows up on these people's feed when when people are posting and they're scrolling through their TikTok or their Instagram, whatever. And so, if you're like a major artist, sure, you can disappear for a year and then drop an album. Shout out Skrillex. Or way more than a year, but
I just did a case study on Eric Prydz that I'm going to post at some point where he's released like 3 songs in 5 years and he's selling out venues around the world. Yeah, you've earned the right at that point by doing it decade after
exactly.
decade after decade. And but I would argue a little bit because I don't necessarily think that time spent in the industry or time spent as an artist necessarily gives you the day off, if you will, right? Like I've worked with artists who are older, have been in the game a while, have had some success in the past, but haven't kept up with how things have evolved and changed. And they fight a lot of this stuff. And they're wondering why they're not where they think they should be, or they talk about how it used to be or the success they used to have. And it's like, you gotta just do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I see that a lot, and actually that's one of the major reasons why I've seen a lot of success actually with artists who are earlier on in their career, younger,
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of experience than artists who have been doing this for like 10 plus years, because of the fact that they understand the current climate and there is a willingness to learn that a lot of the older artists don't have. So when I say, when you're starting out, you should post every single day. If you can keep that up and have like great quality, 100% keep doing it. If the algorithm changes and it becomes a little more beneficial to post every other day, which I've seen has worked for some people's accounts. It also just really depends on your particular audience. It's very nuanced, but that's still super consistent. Even like the really, really big artists, like they are posting all the time
Yeah.
now because that's what you have to do. If you are like absolutely number one in your genre and you're like so special to where like people are not going to forget about you 10 years from now and you drop something out of nowhere, obviously everyone's going to go listen to it. But like if you have 100,000 monthly listeners and you decide I want to be mysterious and drop off the face of the earth for a month, you're going to hurt yourself
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I think, back of the hand knowledge for you and me, but maybe just say it very clearly and transparently. Why does an artist need to be posting every day?
Because that is how you connect with your audience. Gone are the days of finding an artist on the street and using connections and everything to get them to the point where they're the biggest artist in the world. That doesn't work anymore. I actually know a lot of artists who have insane connections and are going nowhere because at the end of the day, the people who are going to be buying your product are the fans. Those are the people that you need to be focused on. And, in today's day and age that everyone is spending all day online on social media, our attention spans are so short. If you're
Flipping
not
all
there,
day.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're not there, they're not going to see you. So it's like that's how you become known. That's how you build a relationship. And I always tell artists like don't view social media as something that you have to do, like just something on your to-do list. View it as a way to tell your friends a little bit more about yourself. Let them into your journey. Make friends online and just, I always say like a lot of artists are worried about like, oh, what if I go on live and no one shows up? So what? Go on
Yeah.
live and pretend that you're on FaceTime with your friends
Yeah.
because your fans are going to love that. Like that sort of connection is what turns like a casual fan into a super fan. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand.
I completely agree with that. One of the artists I work with has his group of, I think he even has a name for them. I don't want to call this particular artist out, but yeah, he would go on IG Live like every Friday at a specific time, and his posse would roll up, and maybe it's only 20 people, but it's like the people who like he knows intimately and they know him and like he has a great relationship with. Of course, we want to multiply those numbers. But yeah, I think you hit it right. Like we need to remember that the consistency of posting, it's such a double-edged sword. It's like it's the bane of our existence sometimes. I know when I get my content done or batched for the week or whatever, I'm like, I can breathe. I have extra time to do stuff. But at the same time, yeah, it's the fan connections, and I always come back to somebody like the Gosh Father. Shout out Gosh Father for sharing his wisdom and how he thinks about things. And he's like, look, my hacks for all this stuff is I don't care about going viral, although we all do want to go viral, but I don't care about going viral. I just want to remind people I'm there and the fans and just stay in front of people, right? And with the marketing, psychology and marketing is there's that bell curve of like how many times you need to market something before it starts to take hold. And I know that there's particular artists that I've seen appear in my feed and maybe I don't immediately follow, but then I kept seeing them. I see them and there's something about them that is like, okay, they're actually these songs are awesome or they're funny or whatever it is. And then I hit that follow button and then I listen to their music and I just become a fan of them. So that repetition breeds success, right?
100%. And that's actually something that, I get a lot of artists saying, "Oh, well, if I post about, what I have going on every single day, then like aren't people going to get tired of me?" And like maybe some people, but like not really, especially because the way that the algorithms work now, it's like it's 90%, 90+% showing, your videos to a brand new audience every single time. But also because, yeah, people do need to see you multiple times before they're going to take that next step of going to another app to go to your
Yeah.
Spotify or something like that.
And don't be scared of like, look, I know it's a lot of psychology goes into this, and mental toughness, I think, but look, okay, if you feel like you're spamming people, fine, they'll unfollow you. The ones who stick around are the real ones, right? Like I send out weekly emails, and I'll get it maybe an unsubscriber here and there. And when I don't,
Hmm.
that's great. But if I see somebody unsubscribe, I'm like, that's fine, that's great, because I know that I'm sending out messages often enough the 1,000+ email addresses I've collected in the last year, those are the ones sticking around, or they're not reading it. But hopefully they're the ones sticking around.
Yeah. And I would honestly argue that that's a good thing. If people who aren't really that interested in your stuff unfollow you, that's a good thing,
Yeah,
because you
trim the fat.
want your audience, you want your audience to be an audience that is actually going to care about your product and your project and who you are, because that is what's going to give you the best data, the best feedback. You're going to be showing your stuff to the right people. And this is something that I see a lot. I mean, I've seen artists with 20,000 followers sell out a venue that an artist with 100,000 followers can't. Because if someone just follows you just because they liked a video that you posted that went viral, that does not necessarily mean that it's going to translate into them being a fan.
Let's put this on a big, like, maybe we'll start selling merch. It says followers don't equal fans.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's so much there. I mean, I even want to ask you about like the artists who, I don't know. It sounds like you're not working with artists who fight social media, but like, I don't know. I've worked with ones who are kind of scared to put themselves out there, so getting over that hump a little bit, or again, they think they're spamming people, or they think that having too high quality, like I'm talking about like professional videographers shooting 2 high quality reels in a country halfway around the world and posting those 2 reels for your one song is gonna like do it, and then throwing a bunch of ad dollars and stuff at it. Like, some people think that those are the ways to do it and those are the solutions. And from where I'm sitting, I'm not really seeing the results. So like, like, how do you deal with the artist that fights it? Do you deal with the artist that fights it? How do have you had any stories where you've helped artists overcome that mental block or help them change the way they think about things?
Actually, yeah, I've worked with a lot of artists who fight it. And honestly, I have a lot of stories of artists that have gotten over that mental block, and there's definitely some who haven't. But um, you know, a big thing that I've noticed is that once they actually start doing it and get into the habit of doing it and start, seeing the results, they're like, oh my God, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? This is so easy. And so like when artists are a little scared, I'm like, just try it, try it out for, X amount of time. If you hate it, we'll pivot. And typically they actually learn to like it. So it's just a matter of, getting them to be willing to try things that are new. And it's usually the artists that have been, trying to make a career in music for a very long time that I have this issue with. And so I usually bring up, what you've been doing up until this point worked? No, right? Try something new.
Yeah.
If you hate it, do something else.
Yes.
But there's no downside to trying.
We are very much cut from the same cloth. We might even be related. Who knows? But I mean, yes. I mean, that is like, I have so many isms that I say. And like, one of them is like, yeah, if it's working, keep doing it. If it's not, try something new. Excuse me. And like, even getting the artists who are like open enough to trying something as simple as reposting the same post and changing the hook or changing something about that video to try to get more engagement on it. Those are the ones that are like, that are super awesome to work with, because they're just open-minded. It's like, okay, let's brainstorm some stuff. Let's try some stuff. It's all testing. Like, those who don't know marketing don't understand that marketing is all about testing. Test, test, test. Find out what works. The more data points you have, the more you can know how to continue going down that path. So awesome. Well, I mean, there's so much more we could talk. What do you want to talk about?
Oh my goodness.
What are some of the yeah, I mean, like, what are some of the keys to success in being an artist in these days? Obviously we've talked about social media, but like, what are some of the things outside of that?
Right. I would say willingness to change is a really big one. I think because of the fact that, the music industry changes so much, so frequently, as does social media. I mean, the algorithm is, different somewhat, every month. And, the music industry, even from 5 years ago, is very different than now.
Shorter, like 1 to 2 years. I've worked with artists who like took a hiatus for like 1 or 2 years, and they came back and they're like, whoa, everything's changed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it changes, drastically. And so willingness to change is a big one. Consistency is really, really important,
In everything.
because in everything, but especially in this career, because there are going to be a lot of things that you try that don't work. There are
Yep.
going to be, a lot of failures. There are going to be a lot of moments where you need to pivot, and being able to just kind of stay on it and keep doing what you need to do, is going to be, really, really important. And then the obvious one is, you need to have, a great brand and undeniable talent. But there's no shortage of talent right now. I mean, I see so many talented artists every single time that I scroll through
Yeah.
social media,
Yep.
to the point where, it's become so accessible that talent alone isn't going to get you where you need to go. And so it's like a combination of things
I
that
should
you
just
need.
quit. I should just quit, and you can take over my company, all my assets. I mean, like, seriously, this is stuff that comes from my mouth. I'm like, talent isn't enough these days, That's
You
table
get it.
stakes, right? Like, that's table stakes. Yeah. And one of my favorite things recently to say, it's like it's an and business, right? Like, it's the sum of your parts. It's the social media, and it's your brand identity, and it's the quality of your music, and it's the consistency of putting yourself out there, and it's the network that you're active in. And you want more gigs, and you're just sitting in your house not doing anything, waiting for the phone to ring. Like, that's not gonna do it. So it's all these parts. Like, you're not building your email list. Why? Like, why are you fighting that? Like, okay, you only have 20 people, let's make it 30 in the next week. Let's, like,
Mhm.
it's all these things. And at the end of the day, a lot of these artists just want to make music, and they just want to make their art and be whatever. But then at the same time, they want Drake status. They want selling out 60,000 person stadiums. They want headlining Coachella. Like, so you got to meet in the middle. And
Right.
your mindset post recently, like, really, really, of course, resonated, and I think reinforced some of the things that I think about too. But playing the long game, you're CEO of your company. What else? I had them written down. There was progress against your past self. They were all really good. Creating opportunities, not waiting for them. Playing
Yep.
the long game, not worried about the short. Progress over perfection, huge. CEO mentality, yes. Like, think like a business is one of my big things. My 3 pillars are um, high quality product, strong brand, and top tier sales and marketing, and like bringing those
Mhm.
things together to help as an artist, and then competing with your past self and not anybody else. So I think those are really good nuggets. Do you have any like dream artists out there that you would love to work with or represent?
Um, well, I would say I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I would love to eventually sort of get into like the like pop space. It's
Sure.
something that I like. I find myself like seeing these artists and like analyzing them and what they've done in their careers, and I love their music so much. And obviously, it's very popular. It's pop music. So I would really love to work with any of those like major
Name some
pop
name. Name
girlies
some names. Name some names.
yeah, like Chapel Roan, Charlie XCX, Renee Rapp, Billie Eilish, like any of those people, like even if it's like just getting one of my artists to the point where they can be like a marshmallow and like produce a song with someone like that.
Household names.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Household names. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're putting it out into the world. You're manifesting that. Those artists, if you're listening, come to us. And then, yeah. I mean, this like with every conversation I have, an episode I do, there's always so much. We could probably talk for hours. But I love like how we're just so aligned with how we think about things, how we help artists, how we work with artists. It's such a convoluted industry, confusing place. There's no real playbook. There's a huge gap between the independent artists and the ones who are like really crushing it out there. The labels, like you mentioned earlier, aren't really developing anymore. So who's actually doing that stuff? That's where hopefully you and I and others like us can help fill those gaps. I would just say, like, what are 3 tips you'd give to any artist right now to break out?
Right.
Or 3 tips in breaking out or making it in music in today's age?
Mm, I would say, and this is one that I feel like a lot of people don't really think about, take advantage of the democratization of the industry. Largely, thanks to technology, social media, and things like that, the gatekeepers don't really have power anymore. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, artists can build a global fan base from their bedroom.
Yeah.
And obviously the challenge there is that the sheer volume of noise is now immense and it's harder than ever to stand out.
Yep.
But I think that this climate is actually overwhelmingly for the good, because
Mm-hmm.
if you have, a clear brand, smart strategy, great music, and the willingness to kind of like do whatever it takes, you can have no budget, no team, and build a global fan base.
Yeah. Scream about this is one, like, and again, Tom and multiple people, like, you spent months or years working on your music, scream about it from the mountaintops. Like, and if you're
Yep.
good at screaming about it and you're shamelessly yourself and all that stuff, like, anyone can absolutely make it, like a laptop, an iPhone, an email address, like,
Yeah.
I think that, that's absolutely right. You hit it on the head
Totally.
there. Yeah. Any other little nuggets for the folks out there to take away of like how you can really get yourself out there in 2025?
Yes, I would say you need to be patiently impatient.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is like be impatient in your like daily work ethic. You need to be constantly creating, constantly posting, constantly engaging, strategizing, but be patient with the long-term results because it takes a long time, typically, 10 plus years to really get to, a point where you have had any sort of success in music. Typically, a lot of these overnight successes that people say are industry plans have actually been working really hard at it for a long time, and they
Yeah.
just now became famous. And so, remembering that it's a marathon, not a sprint, is honestly a really, really important tip, because that's something that like will torment artists mentally and kind of hold them back. And then the other thing is like building a narrative, and that comes with building a subliminal narrative for your brand story. I always tell artists to literally write out a story, for their brand, like who is like your character, like what world do they exist in, what happened to them, what's their backstory, what's their goal, like how do they help people, like whatever it is. And obviously it's not like you're going to publish the story for people to read, but it's just something for you to know, like, okay, this is what my brand is, and you can read it in like 3 paragraphs or something and like fully understand it. And then also just building your story as an artist as well, because your story is just as important as your music, especially nowadays that like everyone can go on the internet. It's like so many people are talented, but like how many people really stand out? And I think having people have the ability to like be let into your world and
Yes.
giving them something to connect with, whether that's a particular message, you as a person, your brand, the universe that you're creating, cultural movement that you're creating, beyond the music, is incredibly important for
So
breaking
important.
out.
So important. Let people in, like, show people who you are, tell them your story. I think there's so many interesting things about people that like they're just not putting out there for whatever reason. And I think my most successful like post from May for my artist page was the story about getting burnt out from my corporate 9 to 5, taking 3 months to go fuck off in South America, starting off in a jungle home by myself in Costa Rica and having the space to like create, making a song I was really stoked about, getting to play it for the locals. I was getting happier and all this stuff. And then, signed it to a label a couple months later. And still to this day, one of my favorite songs to make. But I did like just a carousel post of that story. And that was 3 years ago, and people were commenting being like, that's a banger. Like, you know, people had never heard this song before because maybe they didn't know me or I hadn't promoted it, but like people resonated with the story of like the burnout stuff. People resonated with the travel stuff because people love that. And then just the music itself, people really like latched onto. So, I mean, it can be really as simple as that. You know, telling, but just tell the stories. Storytelling is huge. And like, you know, people feel connected to the person behind it. People feel connected to the music, but they feel even more connected to the person behind it. So thank you for that. Like I said, super helpful, super awesome. I love what you're doing. What's, just like in a very quick summary, what's on the horizon for Helen? What's on the horizon for Straight Edge? Like, what are some of your biggest goals before the year is over or within the next year? Kind of like, how does that all look for you?
Right. Yeah, so I mean, I'd say, my biggest goal, with the company is really just to find new ways to help artists, be someone who, or a company that has a bigger impact on the artists' careers, whether that's artists that we have ourselves, or whether
Mhm.
it's artists that we're helping through socials or through consulting, or whatever. Because like I mentioned earlier, our main goal in starting this company is to provide a full sort of ecosystem, which right now includes, management. We have a label, and then we have publishing, and then we do consulting.
Mhm.
And that will, probably expand. But it kind of provides artists with this entire ecosystem that they have access to, that within the entire ecosystem allows them to maintain full control of their music, their
Yep.
art.
Yep.
Every artist that we work with, retains, 100% of the rights to their masters for everything.
Great.
And we're really big on authenticity and transparency. And so I think just kind of like building that, getting to the point where we can find some like-minded people that can, work underneath us and help us help even more artists. So we can, build a bigger roster is really important to me. And then for the artists, I really just want them to get to the point where they can tour nationwide, like I've done with other artists before. All the artists we have on our roster are up and comers. Because, like I mentioned, I prefer to start with up and comers because I find that it's a lot easier to, skyrocket a career if you're working with the artist at a point where they are better at learning the differences of what's going on, being able to change and just have that work ethic and that drive, rather than an artist that's kind of stuck in their ways, maybe has been a mid-tier artist for a few years or whatever. I find that that's actually harder. But yeah, I want to get them to the point where they're playing nationwide tours. And I think within the next year, that's definitely feasible for some of them. So I'm really excited for that, and that's something that we are working really hard at this year.
Awesome. Well, lots coming up for you, lots on the horizon. Who knows? Maybe in the future there's some kind of like Racket House, Straight Edge, fusion of two awesome people and companies and the whole like stratosphere method movement of artist development and artist success. So thank you so much for taking the time and being here with me today, and like really opening your brain up and sharing all these amazing things. I know it's going to be highly valuable for artists to listen to this. So thank you so much. Just at the very end, I like to do a quick pause, look in the camera so we can take a little photo. We can use that to market and promote this podcast episode, or at least put it on YouTube. I don't know. But yeah, if you want to smile, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Thank
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been such a blast. I honestly feel like we could talk for hours
Yeah.
because we're just so aligned on so many things. If by chance you're listening to this podcast and you don't already follow the Racket House, you totally should. Because their stuff is really great. That's how we met in the first place. Is I shared their stuff to my story, so I totally agree with it. And yeah, I mean, who knows? We might work on something together in the future. But
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
yeah, this has been really great. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the plug too. And obviously, yeah, like if you're an artist out there and you feel like you got what it takes to work with Helen and her team, definitely hit her up. And yeah, if anyone out there needs help with their strategy or anything that they're doing, I'm always a DM or an email away. And hopefully you and I will meet in the future at some point. Maybe you should go to ADE in Amsterdam in October and we could, we can meet there. But yeah, this has been the Racket House Podcast, episode 18. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.